This will be a video for 8th grade. We're going to do section 15.1. We're going to analyze two-way frequency tables. So in this lesson, we're going to have tables that show us probability or frequency of things happening. So just checking out this first page here. Let's fill this out. I'm not going to use A, B, C, D, E down here. I'm just going to kind of talk us through this instead. So a frequency is the number of times that an event occurs. A two-way table shows frequencies of data that is categorized in two ways. The rows indicate one categorization and the columns indicate another. So for example, a poll of 120 town residents found that 40% of 120 people own a bike. All right. Of those who own a bike, 75% shop at the farmer's market. Of those who do not own a bike, 25% shop at the farmer's market. So we got to look at all this here and we've got to figure this out. So the way this works is we're going to have a total number of people who have a bike, a total number of people who don't have a bike. We're going to have a total number of people who work at the farmer's market and the total number of people who don't work at the farmer's market. And this bottom right is the total of everybody, everyone who owns a bike or doesn't own a bike, and everyone who goes to the farmer's market or does not go to the farmer's market, to be our total of 120 people. Now we're going to start solving some problems here. So we know over here that 40% of 120 people own a bike. So let's find what 40% of 120 is. Well, 40% as a decimal is 0.40. So we're going to do 0.40 times 120. 48 people own a bike. So how many people don't own a bike? Well, we'd have to just subtract 120 minus 48, and we get 72 people who don't own a bike. Of those who do own a bike, of this 48 people, 75% shop at the farmer's market. So 75 of the bike owners, 0.75, times the bike owners. So of those who own a bike, of 45, 75%, sorry, 48, not 45, 75%, which is 36, because I did 0.75 times 48 people to get 36 people who own a bike and go to the farmer's market. So how many people own a bike but don't go to the farmer's market? Well, we'll have to do 48 minus 36. We learned that 12 people, because 36 plus 12 does equal 48, and we're good there. Of those who do not own a bike, okay, of all of these people, 25% or 0.25 out of 72, so 0.25 times 72. Of those who don't own a bike, 25% shop at a farmer's market. So we have 18, that's 25% times 72. And finally, 72 minus 18, we have 54 people who don't own a bike and who don't go to the farmer's market. So our total of farmer's market people, we'll do 36 plus 18, we get 54. And we have 54 plus 12, we get 66. All right, let's talk about what this is looking like and what this is representing here. We have 36 and 12 people, that adds up to 48. We've got 18 and 54 adds up to 72. And then vertically, we've got 36 and 18 adds up to 54. 54 and 12 adds up to 66. 48 plus 72 equals 120, and 54 plus 66 is 120. So this bottom right box is the total number of people. Then we have two different variables we're talking about, bike and bike and farmer's market. And we're going to be working with some of these frequency tables throughout this lesson. So make sure you get that page knocked down. Relative frequency So here's one that they gave us. Relative frequency is the ratio of the number of times an event occurs in the total number of events. So it would be blank out of the total number. So in that last case, we had 120 people. So if we could ask, what percentage of people own a bike and go to the farmer's market? So let's just look at this one. We've got 100 teens were polled about whether they are required to do chores and whether or not they have a curfew. So we have chores and no chores. We've got curfew and no curfew. So is there an association between having a curfew and having to do chores? Do people who have curfews usually have more chores? Well, let's check. First off, let's find the relative frequency of people who have to do chores. So chores is 20 people out of 100. So 20 out of 100. If you were to do that, it is already a percent. That's 20 per 100. Okay, you could divide the top and the bottom. Next, we need to find out. I gotta scroll down. So let's find those. They gave us the number there. Find the relative frequency of people who have to do chores among those who have a curfew. So if you have a curfew, it's 50%. So students who have a curfew are more likely to do chores. Compare the relative frequency. Students who have a curfew are more likely to have to do chores than the general population. There is an association. So let's look at it. Let's double check. Curfew. We have 16 out of 32. No, that's not what I'm looking at. People who have to do chores. 20% of people have to do chores. It'll go away. So students who have a curfew are more likely to have to do chores than the general population. There is an association. The relative frequencies show that the students who have a curfew are more likely to have to do chores than the general population of teens polled in the survey. Because we're from 16 to 4. So people who have chores, we have way more people who have chores and a curfew than have chores and do not have a curfew. So there's more here. All right, I know that was kind of confusing. Hopefully it'll make a little more sense when we do a couple more. Data from 200 middle school and high school students were collected. So we have 200 total people we talked to. Students were asked whether or not they had visited at least one national park. Is there an association between being a high school student and visiting a national park? So we want to find out. If you are in high school, does it make it more likely or less likely that you visited a national park? So, is there an association between being a high school student and visiting national parks? Well, let's just look only at high school students. That's this red box here. 80 to 40. Just looking at that. In high school, a lot more people have visited a national park than have not. Okay, that's 80 out of 120. So with high school students, 80 out of 120. Let's find out what percent that is. I think it's 66%. Yep, 67% of them have been to a national park. So there is more association because the other group, the middle schoolers, most people have not. But in high school, most people have. Well, I mean, it makes sense. The older you get, the more likely it is that you've traveled around. So 67% of them have been to a national park. So there is association. In fact, it's positive association. I should have said that because high schoolers are more likely to have been than not. All right. Let's get this one down. And let's go to the next page. All right. In a survey of 50 students, 60% of them, okay, number 1 and number 2, 60% of them, so we have 50 students, so let's put that in our total already. We have 50 people, okay? 60% of them said they have a cat. So 60% goes here. What's 60% of 50? This will be 60%, so this will be 40%. Let's figure out what those will be. So 0.60 times 50. This is 30 people, and this is the remaining 20 people who do not have a cat. Of the students who have a cat, so of these 30, of 30 who have a cat, 70% also have a dog. So let's figure out what this is. Well, let's figure out what 70% of 30 is. 0.70 times 30. We get 21 people also have a dog. So 9 people remaining do not have a dog. Of the students who do not have a cat, so of our no cats, of these two boxes, 75% do have a dog. So 20 times 0.75, this is 15 and this is 5. I know that's 5 because 5 plus 15 makes our total of 20. Okay. For this 15, we did 0.75 times 20 because it said of the students who do not have a cat, that was this 20 students, 75% of 20 have a dog. So 21 plus 15 goes in this bottom left box. We got 36. And then 9 plus 5, we get 14. And then 36 plus 14 does equal 50. So we are set. We did great. We got it. Number 2, the results of a survey at a school are shown. Is there an association between being a boy and being left-handed? So let's look at it. Being a boy and being left-handed compared to being a girl and being left-handed. What is the percentage here? 14 out of 140. So of boys, it's 0.1 or 10% of people are left-handed. So we want to know, is that special? Is that different compared to girls? Well, let's check girls. We've got 10 out of 100, which guess what? That's 10% as well. So there's not going to be an association with being a boy and being left-handed. It's not. It doesn't really line up. Boys and girls have equal likelihood, so there is not an association. No association between being a boy and left-handed. It is equally likely for girls. It's the same. So they're both 10%. So there is not an association. It doesn't, like if this was like 24, now we're talking, that'd be more like 18%. So it would be more likely. But in this case, it's equally likely for boys and for girls. So it doesn't really have an association. Voters were polled to see whether they supported Smith or Jones. Can you construct a two-way table of the results, why or why not? Well, so we could say Smith, Jones. Can we make a two-way table out of this? Let's see. What would these boxes be? Maybe we do, I don't know, we could do male and female. We could do people under 40 and people over 40. We could definitely we would just have to figure out what our other category would be. So we would just have to make our own category for the other variable. For example, male, female, or greater than or equal to 40 or less than, not or equal, less than 40 years old. So we can figure out, like, people who are older than 40 who voted for Smith or Jones. Maybe a bunch of old people voted for Jones, but most of the young people voted for Smith. We could decide if there's going to be an association. Most young people favor something that most old people do not. Same thing with boys and girls. Maybe that would show some association as well. Let's take a peek at what the next page looks like. Let's do number 4 and 5. And then we'll probably wrap it up. So number 4, represent real-world problems. 140 students were asked. Okay, so 140 students. We got to put our total in already. Were asked about their language classes. Of people who take French, out of 111 who take French, so that's 111 people who take French, total who take French, only 31 do not take Spanish. 12 take neither French nor Spanish. So that goes here. Do not take French, do not take Spanish. Use the information to finish this two-way table. So this one shouldn't be too bad. People who take Spanish, people who don't take Spanish, well, we know the total is 111. So we can do 111 minus 31. We get 80 people here. 31 people who don't take Spanish, that's going to be 31 plus 12. That is a total of 43 people. We can fill in this bottom middle box because we know that the total amount of people we asked is 140. And 111 take French. So this is 29 people don't take French total. And people who do not take French and do take Spanish, that's 29 minus 12. We get 17 people. And 80 plus 17 is a total of 97. And then let's just double check 97. Double check 97 plus 43 is 140. So we're good. We're just filling in the blanks. We're going to complete and fill in the blanks on the next one as well. And part A here is going to be a lot like what your homework is going to be like. So hopefully you can see you can recognize the patterns and stuff that we have going in these. 7th grade students, we have a bunch who prefer science, some anyway, and some that prefer math, and we have a total amount of students. So let's complete this table. What goes in this box? Well, this number plus this number equals 96. So let's do 96 minus 72. This is 24 people in 7th grade prefer science. 72 in 7th grade prefer math. 8th grade, we have this number plus some number equals some number. We don't know that yet. We could fill in this blank over here. We could fill in this blank. Let's do the total number of people who prefer science. This is 24 plus 32 equals minus 24 plus 32. We get 56 people prefer science with 7th and 8th graders. So let's find out this blank here. We have total number of 8th graders. Well, that's going to be, we have a total number of 7th and 8th, that's 176. So we can just subtract the 7th graders, the 96 7th graders from that. We have 80 people in 8th grade. If there's 80 8th graders and 32 prefer science, well, how many prefer math? We'll also do 80 minus 32. We're going to get a 48. And then finally, how many total prefer math? 72 plus 48. We get 120 prefer math. All right. That's what I like to hear. B, is there an association between being in 8th grade and preferring math? So let's just look at it. Looking at 7th grade, what percentage prefers math? That's 72 out of 96. That's 75% of people prefer math. Well, let's look at 8th grade. The 8th graders, we've got 48 out of 80. So we have 60%. Because I have 48 divided by 80 in 8th grade. That's how many people prefer math. So is there an association between being in 8th grade and preferring math? There is negative association because 8th graders actually don't like math as much as 7th graders. It actually went down from 7th to 8th grade, from 75 to 60%. So it kind of looks like we have association. Yes, it does get smaller as the grade goes up, but we've got fewer people in 8th grade who prefer math than we had in 7th grade. 7th grade, that's a lot. 8th grade, yeah, they still do kind of like math. The 60% is more than half, but it is less than they were in 7th grade. So the percentage did go down. Math gets a little harder in 8th grade, or maybe they don't like their teacher as much. I mean, I'm the 7th and 8th grade teacher, so it probably doesn't really change, but 60% is less than 75. Let me know if you have any questions.